Henry Giroux argues that despite all the messages about race, gender, innocence and democracy that Disney markets, the corporation's ultimate goal is to transform children and their families from a democracy of citizens to a democracy of consumers. Disney has at best a mixed record on race and gender, and it is our job to hold Disney accountable and not suspend our critical judgment of children's film. Modern exploitation films have a higher set budget than exploitation cinema of the 1970s due to an increase in the quality of 21st century films, such as special effects and high-profile leads. This higher budget is a necessity in order to convince modern audiences to travel to the cinema for new releases. The majority of critics' reviews must be positive due to the increase of streaming services such as Netflix and Disney+. This results in studios leaving their films in the cinema for less time before taking their products to streaming sites. Disney's poor track record of representation and the treatment of characters of racial minorities displays a lack of respect overall for both the characters they create and the audiences who consume the company's products. This lack of respect shows that modern Disney media shares similarities to exploitation films of the 1970s, despite their usual high budget, due to the fact that Disney is not creating these films containing higher levels of racial representation with the feelings of the audience in mind. Their sole intentions are to manipulate audiences into spending more money to boost box office and merchandise profits. Disney being the forefront of modern racial exploitation films holds key links to the animation company's history, as they have been the face of many racial scandals over the years due to insensitive representations of people of colour since the birth of the animation studio. Early characters such as Mickey Mouse took visual inspiration from blackface minstrelsy's visual and performative conventions, and this was followed by a long line of negative racial stereotypes displayed through multiple non-white characters. For instance, a crow in the film Dumbo being called Jim Crow, the same name as a blackface minstrel character whose name went on to be used in segregation laws in the US. The contempt that the corporation holds towards its non-white characters has been repeatedly shown through the long list of characters that Disney decides to dehumanize through the use of animal imagery. The 2009 animated film The Princess and the Frog featured the first black Disney princess, Tiana. However, this film struck up a controversy, as for the majority of the runtime of the film, Tiana spends this time transformed into a frog. Many think that not only is this dehumanizing, but it is also a way for Disney to get around having to show people of colour on screen for as long as their white counterparts. Many other characters of colour have been either turned into animals for a certain duration of their respected films, or are named after an animal of some sort, such as Joe Gardner in Pixar's Soul, Mei Lee in Pixar's Turning Red, and Emperor Kuzco in The Emperor's New Groove. In 2018, Marvel Studios, a subsidiary of Walt Disney Studios, released the box office hit Black Panther, starring Chadwick Boseman as Marvel's first black superhero to get their first standalone film. One of the main reasons Black Panther can be classified as a modern exploitation movie is that it is a film in an era of racial tension with a heroic black protagonist. As well as this, despite being the third highest grossing Marvel production of all time, Black Panther had some of the weakest writing and post-production work, with the CGI at times not holding up to the previous projects from the same studio. The main reason why this film did so well financially was due to black audiences' joy at seeing themselves represented wholly in a Marvel movie. However, many black critics were quick to point out the irony of the first black superhero movie from the company being set in an African country that is forced to pretend to have less access to resources in order to keep them safe from colonial powers.